Thank you, John. Now, Kev has promised he's going to be hollering at me like a Southern Baptist all the way through this, so you better not let me down. And if you all want to join in, that's fine. Well, I'm originally from Worcester, which is just down the road, for all those of you who are geographically challenged. And I lived there for 11 years, and I've been all around the country. I've even lived on the Isle of Man for 5 years. I've worked in all sorts of different stuff. I was pretty much a failure as a teenager, and in terms of I went off after the world and kind of left my Christian upbringing behind. Got involved in lots of stuff I shouldn't have been involved in. You can probably, I gained a beer belly and I've never managed to lose it, as you can see. I keep trying. I seem to just replace beer with kebabs and pizzas, and John hasn't really helped me on that note. I've limited myself to 3 slices, but yeah, so I had pretty much a bad past. My mum sat just there, and she can pretty much testify to the fact that I wasn't an easy teenager to live with. And really, I was never happy during any of that time, because I knew I was living away from the Lord, and I was a Christian, and I was saved, and I knew that where I should be, and I definitely wasn't there. So I began to try and put my life back in order. It took me about a year to get completely dry off alcohol, which I won't go into detail now, but if you actually, it's worth me mentioning this now, if you go to the Time for Truth website, you can see, if you go to the Time for Truth Scotland tab, no, it's actually on the Meet the Team tab, isn't it? If you go to the Meet the Team tab, you can read a bit more about my past and stuff. I want to talk more about Scotland and what's going on in Scotland now, because that's what I'm excited about, rather than that part of my life. But suffice to say, I was an idiot, and if John was going to give out a trophy for the biggest moron, it would go to me. She can be moron queen. I'll be moron king. Yeah, so I moved back to Worcester, and I lived at my dad's house. He still lives in Worcester, and I began to try and grow in the Lord and get closer to the Lord. And one of the questions I really had was kind of, where is truth? Because all churches seem to say different things. You've got some crazy stuff coming out of every angle of church, and I'd had quite a wide palette of experience in all different churches. And I didn't really know, I knew it wasn't true that relativism was true. I knew that wasn't true. I knew that one of them had to be kind of right in some way. And the way I found that was by just asking the Lord to show me the truth regarding His Word. I know you have to start at the Word. You know, the Word, if you want, is the foundation, and everything we believe grows out of that. So I knew I had to start there. I used to read my Bible with about 6 or 7 different Bibles all fanned around me, and it would just do my head in. I didn't know which one was the final authority. I didn't know which one was right. And I used to I'm going to admit this now. I'll stand a bit further away from John. I used to think that the ESV was the final authority, because the reason I believed that was because people like John MacArthur, John Piper, if you know these men in America, were always bigging it up. Thank you. They were always bigging the ESV up, so I thought ESV was 100% what I should be trusting in, and I would choose that over the King James if there was a disagreement. So I knew that something was wrong. I hadn't really figured it out. And when I met John Davis, that straightened me out. It didn't take long. The problem with meeting John Davis and meeting the team is that you come from a place of general apathy, and that's if you're in a modern church which uses a modern Bible, the chances are you're coming from an apathetic setting, and you come from that into a whirlwind, which is the Time for Truth team and the way they live their lives. And I was exposed to that. I didn't really know how to handle it, to be honest. And sometimes were fantastic, and sometimes I was going home kind of shocked, and I don't know what to do. The challenges I was getting from the team were huge, and my life was being challenged. I began to see that I was a carnal Christian, that I wasn't really living for the Lord with all that I had. And the life that the team lived was a witness against me constantly. And I found that very hard to deal with, probably because I'm a big guy, and I learned that when I used to work in bars and pubs and things like this, and I used to work for scrap dealers with lads in the world, and you soon learn that all of your self-worth comes from your ego, and your arrogance and your pride. And that was just being stripped away layer by layer, and I didn't like it. So what I did was I ran away to Scotland. That's actually true, that's what I did. I followed my family moved up there, my mum, my brother, my youngest brother, and I wanted just to kind of go and get a bit of peace really. So I moved to the Highlands of Scotland where there's not very many people. But again, that soon proved to be a pretty bad decision at the time. And I was just going to say now a little bit about the church in Scotland, kind of what I'm dealing with up there. I'd say the overriding issue in the church up in Scotland is different to England. And the overriding issue is that people have always done church in one specific way. And they see their spiritual lives, the importance is ticking off the box of going to church. See, the amount of people that go to church in Scotland is a lot more than here. Up in the Highlands, loads of people go. But it doesn't mean anything. And they just hear the same messages over and over again from the pulpit, and they just get to tick off that box and they think they're spiritual. And I went into that environment, and I was kind of quite keen and looking to kind of do things straight away. And I went into a church. I was in a church of 150. These are ESV. Surprise, surprise. And no one was doing anything with young lads. There wasn't a single Bible study going on in the church for men. And most of the church were wives coming to church, but the men stayed at home. They had kind of grown cold, but the wives still wanted to come and tick off that box, that religious box. So I set up a lads group where we would study the Bible once a week. But that proved very, very difficult. As you can imagine, as an AV Bible-believing Christian, that was really, really awkward in a church which would not be welcoming to that kind of teaching. I've learned a lot of stuff from John. All the stuff you see on here about being dispensational and all this kind of stuff. And I came from a Calvinistic background, and I'd gone back into a Calvinistic church, now knowing all of the errors and understanding that better. It was very, very awkward. And I knew something was still missing in my life, though. I knew I had to really kind of put things right with the team. So that's what I did. I emailed John, and John and the team have been absolutely incredible with me. They've helped me any way I need to be helped. They've helped me and supported me. And this time round, I knew what I was getting into. And this time round, I've kind of been ready to make the jump. And excited to make the jump instead of very nervous and apprehensive about what that's going to mean. And as we discussed, we knew that I needed to be doing more of my life. And I wasn't going to be satisfied until, like John was challenging us all earlier, until I was really involved. So we decided to launch Time for Truth Scotland, and I've got a hoodie Time for Truth Scotland on there, but I can't wear that, it's too hot, so I'm in my old Time for Truth clothes. But we launched Time for Truth Scotland, and with that I relaunched my life, I suppose. And I relaunched my life. I don't want to be a carnal Christian anymore. Everyone who's my age group, I know lots and lots of Christians. I used to work at a Christian Outdoor Centre, and all of the young Christians there, I'm only 24, by the way. I know I look about 40, but I'm only 24. And all the Christians there, they're into things like Family Guy, if you've ever heard of that, and South Park, and these movies which have just got sex and drugs and just complete trash. They just watch TV non-stop, or they're always on their phones. It's so annoying that when I'm running this lads' Bible study, I'll just look over and they're all just there. Oh man. And I was living like that really, and I was just involved in all this stuff which I shouldn't have been. And I remember talking to one of my Christian friends once, and he said, "It doesn't bother me watching films with sex and swearing and violence." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, that's not my weakness." And I thought, well, you know what, that's quite an incredible comment for a Christian to say. He said, "I'm impervious to any sin that's not my specific weakness." And he told me what his specific weakness was. He said, "I just avoid that. Any other sin basically is fine, So, and that's really the attitude. And I knew I had to really throw that out. I can't keep going and resorting back and falling back on the world when things get tough, going back to old comforts, And that's very dangerous for someone like me, because if I ever go back to alcohol, that's going to cause a lot of damage in my life. So I really had to set things right. And I've been talking to John a lot over even just the past few weeks. We've been talking an awful lot about what does it really mean to live for the Lord Jesus Christ. And we barely see that anywhere. And the only place I've actually seen that is in Time for Truth teams, where I know that's where I have to be. And what I mean by that is that's the only time I've lived with people and experienced that from Christians. There's people in this room who I believe are kind of living that life as well, but I've not lived with them and experienced it. The only time I've actually had that, been exposed to that, is with Time for Truth team. All the churches I've been in before that, it was just apathy. So what we decided to do in Scotland is start looking outwards instead of inwards. I didn't want to just do another AV ministry. something like this, because I have fantastic resources. You all have fantastic resources available to you. I can go and give people Alan's book. I can point people to Mark's website. I don't need to do any more on the AV, because there's people who are really gifted, a lot more gifted than me. I've already said I'm a bit of a moron, so if there's no point in me writing a book on the AV or something like that, it'd just be illegible. So I thought, the best thing for me to do is just be preaching the gospel and trying to reach the lost. And if somebody gets saved, I can point them to all this great material. And thankfully, I really thank the Lord for this. In the last few months, I've been able to lead 2 lads to the Lord, and that was fantastic. They're both brothers, and they're just from the next village to me. And I thought the first thing I've got to do is I've got to put the Bible in their hands, because they're there at a church using the ESV. I thought, I know this is going to cause a lot of trouble, but I thought I'm going to do it, because it was such a hassle for me to unpick all of the bad stuff I'd learned and to start again with the AV. I knew I just need to get them straight on it. So that's what I did with them, and my mum as well has really just been kind of coming into the issue, and we went through all of that stuff. And it was none of my stuff, I was just using other people's. So. And one of the lads said to me, "Can I have a copy of all your notes?" I said, "I understand if you don't want to give them to me, because it's all of your work." I just started laughing and said, "Look, mate, none of this is from me. I haven't got a clue about any of this stuff." But so I was able just to point them in the right direction. That was fantastic, and they're coming on really strong now. And in terms of TfT Scotland, the main aim really is just the gospel and getting the gospel out. I'm quite excited to see what God's going to do, and I'm just trying to ask the question of the Lord. Where do you want me to go? Here I am, Lord. Send me into the right place. The main emphasis we've got really, I'm hoping that I've got people who are going to, in Scotland, who are going to get me involved. So it shouldn't just be me. One of the huge things is I live right on the tourist trail. I live in the Great Glen between Loch Ness and Ben Nevis. So you've got hundreds of thousands of tourists pouring through. Every year they're just pouring through. They're relaxed. They're from all over the world. So really, it's a good opportunity to witness to them, because they're there. No one's doing anything about that. Churches in Scotland are too busy looking at themselves. They're very, very insular. So I'm quite excited about this. So I really want to start going into the real hot spots where you've got loads of tourists milling around. You've got Japanese people, you've got people from South America, you've got people from all over Europe. They're all just there milling around together. I'm really excited just to kind of get stuck in with gospel tracts and chick tracts. The This Is Your Life chick tract. I don't know if you've seen that. But you can get that in all the different languages all around the world. And thankfully, my dad, who's an evangelist, working with truck drivers, he's already got all the different languages and stuff in, so I'm pretty much well equipped there. And then with the locals, they're very, very hard people. It's really hard to break through to them. If they're a Catholic, they're a Catholic, and there's nothing you can do about it. If they're Church of Scotland, they're Church of Scotland. There's nothing it's not about being saved. It's about what church you're from. I've been christened, or I've been baptized as a baby. That makes me fine. That's the kind of attitude. So to break through to them, really, I just want to hit them with the gospel, pure and simple, because they're churched, and you've got to. Then there are people they've got thick skin to stuff of a Christian nature, so you've got to hit them really hard. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that, legally, is is giving them John stuff, which might not be legal for very long. So, I'm just trying to letterbox and go tracting and leave tracts wherever I go. And I'm hoping to have, my mum's really keen to get involved in that as well, so I'm going to have a lot of help doing that. It's a long way to go. It can be quite hard sometimes. You've just got croft after croft, and you've got these massive driveways and stuff, but it's well worth the effort. Almost as a witness to somebody, even if they don't get saved, you've done all you can really in that situation. And something which really shook me up a few months ago and was kind of a real catalyst for all this. My next door neighbour was killed in a car crash. And I went around the local shop for a loaf of bread and maybe a couple of bars of chocolate and stuff like that, I don't know. But I walked into one of the shopkeepers and I just said, "Hey, you okay?" She looked kind of white as a sheet, really. And she said, "No, the lad from the village has just been killed in a car crash." And I knew there was been a crash because the road was closed and my brother couldn't get home from school. So I said, "Oh, who was it?" I wondered if I knew them. And she said the name, and I knew straight away, oh wow, that's horrendous. And she told me that a few weeks ago her fiance had been killed in a car crash as well. So that's why it was really brought all that back for her. The day before I'd been speaking to her, I just knew there was something about that woman, and I really wanted to say something. I didn't know what to say, and I was walking back home, and I was saying to the Lord, what is it with that woman? There's something about her. And I found out the day after. I found it in unfortunate circumstances. But the thing with this guy Brian dying was that I had opportunities to witness to him, and I never did. And whichever way you look at that, you can say, well, it's not my fault. He never responded to the gospel. I don't know. I don't know if he was saved. But the truth is, I could have done more than I did, and I didn't, because I was too consumed in my own issues. I was too consumed in the world, and I should have done so much more. I could have at least put a tract through his door, and I didn't even do that. And that really I couldn't sleep for nights very well at all. I was phoning John up, and we were talking about it, and it really kind of beat me up. Not that that's a consolation, it's just I took that really hard, and I knew that I needed to get that right in my life. I needed to start looking inward and stop worrying about problems and things in the past which dog me or might haunt me, worrying, that I'm going to go back to drink and things like this. I need to just look forward and try and live all out for the Lord, the challenge which John's really putting to us today. And that really has given me a heart for the locals in the villages around where I'm living. I just want to get the gospel to them, and at least then I know I've done what I can. They're very hard people to talk to, particularly because I'm English. And if Scotland doesn't get independence, I think I might have to stand guard outside my house with a baseball bat or something on the night that happens. And then the other two things really is just trying to grow a Bible study that's going, and I don't know what that's going to grow into. I'm completely inexperienced and unqualified in every way, so the Lord's really going to have to lead that and to see what happens with that. And the other thing is just a little thing, an idea we've got in terms of hotel work. And you'll all have heard of the Gideons and the work they do, putting Bibles in hotels and stuff. Well, they're putting NIVs in hotels now, and B&Bs and stuff. And around my house, almost every second house is a B&B or a hotel. In fact, there's a part of Fort William called the Golden Mile, and literally every single house is a B&B all the way along for an entire mile. So it's a great opportunity to try and say to them, I think I send my mum round and dress her up smart instead of me, then they might be more responsive. So send around and try and get Bibles put in each room and things like that, and of course AV Bibles. I just finished by saying that my real emphasis now in my life is to preach the gospel. I spent far too much of my life wasting my life. I'm 24 and I'm already starting to feel like an old man because of the kind of abuses I put my body through. I've got heart problems, I've got liver problems, and they are still kind of causing me grief. Got high blood pressure, or was it high cholesterol? One of the two. I don't even know. And I'm 24. I shouldn't be this unhealthy. I shouldn't be like I am, And it's because I've been so focused on myself, and I haven't been focused enough on the Lord. And really, all that matters now is building up my treasure in heaven. And I just want to encourage each of you. I think we're in the age of Jeremiah. I think we're going to be preaching a lot and getting not very much in return. But that shouldn't put us off, because God kept reinforcing Jeremiah. He told him he was to be a pillar of iron. And that's what we need to be, wherever you're living, wherever you are. In my spirit, I want to come back and be with the team. But I'm kind of rooted into Scotland now. I've got to put the effort in there. And really, I want to take this opportunity as well just to thank John and thank the team for being as supportive as they have been to me. Because they had every right to kind of say, you're messing us about, we're not going to pursue that. And they didn't. They haven't said that. They've just been 100% backed me up. So John gets a lot of stick, and a lot of people are attacking him and think he's some kind of hateful cult leader. Well, parts of that might be true. If it wasn't for John, I would still be kind of struggling in the version issue. I wouldn't really be. I'd be without a lot of guidance. He's been very much a spiritual father figure in my life, and I know he hates titles and stuff like that, so I won't give him one. But he's been fantastic in my life. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank John and the team, and just challenge you guys, whoever you are, wherever you are, just to preach the truth and preach the gospel, and just to give it every effort you've got. Because in my short experience in life, I've realised every time I try and follow my own intuition, follow my own will, follow the world, it just ends badly. So that's all I want to say. Thanks for listening.